Hello friends and welcome to a new episode of Soft Skills channel, and today we will talk about a very important skill which is communication, and within communication we will specifically talk about verbal communication. So keep watching till the end because in this video we will try to understand what is verbal communication, and then I will also give you 5 tips on how to improve it. My name is Jameel Hye and I've been working in the corporate sector for the last 19 years, and my passion is to help you build real life skills for your job and career that they don't teach you in college. So let's first talk about what is verbal and non-verbal communication. Now, if you Google this, you'll find a lot of complicated definitions, which you can use for sure. But if you look at this table here, it makes it much simpler. So verbal communication or non-verbal communication can be of 2 types. It could be oral, it could be non-oral. So if you think about your verbal oral communication, it's basically the words that you utter from your mouth simply. The non-oral verbal communication is basically what you write. So emails, letters, those kind of things, that is basically verbal communication as well, because you are using words, but you are not just uttering them from your mouth. So it's not oral anymore, it's non-oral. Similarly, non-verbal communication can also be of 2 types. So non-verbal oral communication is basically how people express their emotions. So laughing, crying, that kind of stuff. So if you think about a baby, the baby cannot use verbal communication because the baby doesn't know how to either write words or utter words, but it's going to use non-verbal oral communication when it will cry to tell you that he or she is not happy. Similarly, they will laugh if they want to express that, hey, they are happy. And finally, the non-verbal, non-oral communication is basically your body language, how you use your hands, how you use your eye contact. And we'll talk a lot about that in the next video as well. So now let's go a little bit deeper into verbal communication. So how you can improve it. So the first thing you can do is prepare what you are going to be saying or writing. So whether you are preparing an email or you are preparing to talk to someone, compose your thoughts. What are you going to talk about? How you are going to deliver the message. So this becomes even more important when you are delivering bad news. Some time ago, I posted a video called How to Give Bad News to Your Boss. I will put the link of that video somewhere here. And if you watch that video, it also talks about how do you prepare yourself to give bad information. But even if you're giving good information or you are just conveying something, just making sure that your thoughts are organized. So the typical structure you can think about is what is the background of this issue? Why is it happening? And then what are you doing about it or where you need help about it? So just try to organize your thoughts because then your delivery becomes much easier. The second tip is simplify your message. There's no point in preparing for long speeches or very lengthy emails, because when you are communicating in an office environment, people want to come to the point quickly. So instead of writing an email which looks like this, write an email which looks more like this, where you're basically informing them about the status of a certain project and you are just putting a bullet point to summarize the overall status of the project today. And then what is the help required? This is very important, that especially when you write emails which require a call to action, try to have that section where what is needed from you. Because when people will read that email, their attention will immediately go towards, okay, what is my action required? What do I need to act upon? So that will really keep the message crisp and drive people to action. The third tip is try to engage your listeners. Why are you communicating to them? Now, there must be your own reason for communicating. So if you go back to the email I just talked about, you needed some help on the project from people, which is fine. But also try to engage your audience by telling them what's in it for them. So what's the advantage? What's the gain that they get out of this, right? So there's a very interesting concept here, which I just want to briefly talk about, which is called the translation gap. This is often taught in communication classes or presentation courses, which is basically talking about when you communicate with someone, you have your own selfish reason, which is called what's in it for me. But at the same time, you need to think about what's in it for them. So why would they be a part of this conversation? And oftentimes we have a gap in these 2 things. And this gap is called the translation gap. And often a lot of communication that we do is not effective because we are just selfishly thinking about what's in it for us, while not paying attention to what's in it for the audience. So try to find out what will engage your audience or what is the win that they could get out of this discussion. And that will really help you engage your audience in a much more effective way. The next tip is take your time to respond. So now what we're talking about is how you get into that 2-way communication and how do you manage it. So you have so far organized your thoughts, you have simplified your message, you have engaged your listeners. So now you are having a conversation. Now this conversation can be happening live if you're having like a discussion, or it could be on email or messages. But as you engage in that two-way dialogue, a very important aspect of your communication is listening. I made a video on listening skills some time ago. I'll also put a link of that somewhere here. And listening is such an important part of communication because once you start a dialogue, you need to understand what the other person is saying. So make sure that you are understanding what the other person is saying by utilizing your active listening skill, which is explained in that other video I just referred to, and then take your time for a thoughtful response. And the final tip is follow through. Once your conversation is over, make sure that you're following through on your actions. Now, this may not be directly linked to communication skills per se, but the follow through is important. What do I mean by follow through? So let's say you had an email exchange, or let's say you had a conversation. There would be definitely some actions coming out of that meeting. Now, those actions could be on you, or those actions could be on your listener. If the actions are on your listener, then follow up with them later on to make sure that the reason why you initiated the conversation is actually helpful and effective. Similarly, if the action is on you, make sure you are responsibly closing your actions on time and getting to a meaningful output of this two-way discussion. So I hope you found this video helpful. In the next video, we will talk about the non-verbal communication skills. So keep watching.